Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the next episode of Ambassador's Lounge. Our apologies for the gap. The reason was that our dear friend Hassan Raza, Ambassador Hassan Raza, he passed away last week, and we are still in a state of shock. An excellent gentleman, an ace diplomat, and a dear friend to everyone. We lost him. May Allah bless his soul and give solace to his family to bear this irreparable loss with fortitude. Today's program we have chosen to discuss Iran situation, American threats, and implications for Pakistan. So today we have just lone warrior and dear friend Imran Yawar, Ambassador Imran Yawar. He'll field the questions. So I hope that you'll enjoy this fiery talk we are going to have. Welcome, Imran.
Thank you, mate.
And you have gone through these media reports about President Trump's blow hot, blow cold, mood, and the latest is that he is now talking about having talks with the Iranians. But the question is, what talks President Trump intends to have with the Iranians?
Okay, Asif, before I address your question, first thing is that yes, I feel equally pained at the demise of Hassan Raza, as you yourself said, a very close friend, a dear friend, a scholar, an ace diplomat, I'll use your words, and we will miss him forever. It was not time for him to go, but that's God's decision. May he rest in eternal peace.
Amen.
Coming to your question, Asif, well, you see, first thing is that Mr. Trump has now said that he wants to have talks, or the Iranians are interested in talks with him. Yes, he's also interested in talks with him. But you see, this, knowing Mr. Trump, knowing his temperament, he has done this. Look at Venezuela. When he was talking about peace and everyone thought that the situation had ameliorated, that, things wouldn't get to that extent, what does he do? He goes and he kidnaps the president and his wife. You go back, further back, and what happened in the first episode of Iran, everyone was talking about peace. Mr. Trump was talking about peace. And then out of nowhere, he goes and attacks Iran. So you cannot trust what Mr. Trump does. As if here it is, there are certain things you must realize. Iran and the US, they have their positions deeply entrenched. US has continuously said, and it has been its policy, that number one, Iran has to abandon its nuclear program, zero enrichment policy. Number two, Mr. Trump wants Iran to give an account of that 60% enriched uranium, which was about 400 kg.
Yes.
Third, he says missile program, curtail the missile program. It should not be as it is at the moment. Limit
especially its range.
And fourth thing is, you are not going to support the proxies. Well, these are the things which Iranians are not going to compromise. And if Iranians are not going to compromise, Americans are not going to compromise. So both of them are in a situation where both of them are not ready to compromise on each other's point of view. Their point of view, their positions are deeply entrenched. If Mr. Trump says that Iranians are agreeing to talk, I have, Asif, no understanding. I do not understand on what grounds Iranians are going to talk to them. If you have any point of view in that.
Imran, there's irony that all over the world, whenever there are crises in a country, they resolve it within their own confines. No third country jumps in and tell them what to do, what not to do. Iran is a unique example where you might have seen that United States, just grabs the opportunity if there's a crisis in Iran. You may have seen that in 2009. Then you may have seen that crisis in 2022. Earlier, you had 2019. And then in 2022 was, quite a, prominent way of protest by the Iranians on scarf issues when that young lady, Amina, was murdered, killed. And then now you have this problem of currency crunch, which Iran is facing. So these are Iran's internal problems. But United States has tried to hijack everything. The question is that would the Iranian regime be able to resolve the internal domestic crisis, or they are going to listen to the Americans? This is my question as well as answer, and then counter question to you. What do you think about that?
Asif, you are absolutely correct that Iranian government apparently still, they have no clear-cut, clear thought-out plan on how to improve the economic situation of the country. Mr. Pezeshkian is on record stating that I cannot do anything. So it seems that there is no way out for the economic situation of the country. Sanctions have played a role.
Rather, those have become more stringent.
Yeah, sanctions have played a role, but Asif, more than sanctions, or equally important, is the economic mismanagement of the country. More than that, it's the structural weaknesses. So how are they going to improve it?
How you can qualify this economic mismanagement when they are under sanctions? Severe.
Yeah, they are under sanctions. What we have seen, despite being under sanctions, they have been funding Hamas. They have been heavily funding Hezbollah. They have been funding Houthis. So they have been using the funds which have been coming because of the export of oil to countries like Iran, to countries like China. They were getting the money. They were getting the finances, but where were they using it? Instead of using it for their own people, they were using it to finance those things. Agreed that they did form the first line of defense for the Iranians. But what we have seen is that line of defense crumbled so easily in the face of Israeli onslaught.
You think that what kind of a lesson Iran government would have learned?
I think the Iranian government should sincerely now concentrate towards the betterment of the... You see, the people in Iran, I think, as if the number of people who were killed, it ranges from 3,000 to 30,000 to 50,000, different. But it's not important. What is important is that the Iranian regime, the mullahs, they resorted to heavy-handedness. They went all out to make sure that they survived this crisis.
But Imran,
and this was a very serious crisis.
Don't you think that these casualty figures, first time even the Iranian government has admitted that they are over 3,000?
Yes, they have.
This is unprecedented.
It is, you're right.
Ever since the revolution took place. Yes, they had a war with Iraq. There were, close to 1 million people were killed. And then chemical weapons were also used by the Iraqi regime, Saddam's regime. But subsequently, whatever crisis Iran had, you didn't ever register these kind of casualties. And
Absolutely
conflicting
correct.
reports are coming in. While government admits over 3,000, then there are reports of 10,000, as you rightly said, 30,000, and even beyond. So normally when you don't allow freedom of expression, so you get these mixed reports, and which are definitely not going to Iran's favor. But at the same time, you think that if Iran is squeezed, and especially its nuclear program comes under microscope, and the United States squeezes Iran further, don't you think that it will also encourage the Iranians to rally behind their flag?
First of all, Asif, you are a Persian specialist also. There's a saying that if you sow the wind, you will reap, or you shall reap the whirlwind. That is what Iran believes in.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, what you see. What is how I see is what is preventing the Americans from embarking on an all-round hostilities with Iran is that can they absorb the retaliation of the Iranians? Iranians are sure to retaliate. Iranians, after the first encounter with the Americans and the Israelis, they have realized that they can absorb and they can survive.
Correct.
That has given them confidence.
Correct.
But that is not the case with the Americans. That is not the case with the Israelis. Israelis, according to some reports, they are telling Mr. Trump that please restrain yourself, because Israelis believe that they will not be able to absorb the retaliation of the Iranians.
You're right.
So Iran, the Israelis are reluctant. The Americans are reluctant because, and not only Israel. How will the regional countries, that is Qatar, that is UAE, Bahrain,
all the Persian Gulf countries,
how will they react? Because you see, what we have seen is that the regime can go to any extent for its survival.
Correct.
We have seen its killing of the people. Now, broaden it. If Americans, if the hostilities start, the regime will definitely undertake all measures to protect itself for its own survival, and then sky's the limit.
You're right, and I think the very important point you have raised is the situation in the Persian Gulf countries. They all have American bases.
Exactly.
Qatar has got the largest base, followed by UAE, and then all other Gulf countries have American bases. Their troops are there. Almost overall, they are talking about 50,000 American troops are there. But if the situation aggravates, there's a unanimity about this statement that Americans are not going to commit their boots on ground.
They should not, and yes.
And same is true about Israelis.
Mm-hmm.
So that leaves the theater to only air power. Americans may use their aircraft, air power, or Israelis, as they did during the June 2025 exchange. But unless there are boots on the ground, they should not expect any change in Iran, any material change.
Absolutely correct.
Americans did that in Iraq. They had boots on ground, but to their horror, they had to face the music. And after spending close to $3 trillion and heavy casualties, they had to leave. And same happened in Afghanistan. Spending $2.5 trillion in 20 years, they deposed Taliban, and then after 20 years, they handed over
the power to them.
Power to the Taliban.
Mm-hmm.
So from Taliban to Taliban. So these kinds of blunders which American administrations, successive American administrations have committed, I think that is not going to benefit the United States. Plus, they'll lose the political narrative.
Asif, you're absolutely correct. But here, let me pose you a question. You have been there twice. Now, what we see is that whatever, irrespective of the number of the people killed during the recent protests, the Iranians are disillusioned with the regime. They have been disillusioned for quite a long time, but this was the final thrust. If Americans do resort to hostilities, you have been there twice, mate, let me reiterate that. Do you think the Iranians will get together, gel under one flag, or do they now want a regime change, as what Mr. Trump has been saying?
Imran, the main issue is who's next? What's the alternative? And when you look right or left, you don't find any.
You don't find any alternative.
You may talk about the crown prince, de facto crown prince, but what role has he played? Another far, rare possibility, you talk about Mujahideen Khalq. They are nowhere to be seen.
They're nowhere to be. They're quiet, totally quiet, yeah.
So what is the alternative? So I think Iranian as a nation, they are very mature people with 98% literacy rate. They know that yes, they can bring about a change if they want to. But without alternate, I don't think they are going to disturb the system.
Present status quo.
The system. And I think this should serve as a clarion call for the clergy in Iran, that they have to mend their ways and tailor their policies according to the wishes of the people. For instance, and in this I give credit to the Iranian clergy who are ruling, that in 2022 on Mahsa Amini's murder, they softened up. And I visited in 2024, almost 60-70% young ladies were not wearing hijab. So it was, you can say, gradual social change accepted by the regime, while they don't forget that they have hardliners and they have moderates. Moderates have been supporting that aspect, but hardliners wanted to be harsh on that, but they failed. I mean, what I'm trying to say is that there has been a gradual progression in the Iranian political development, even if it was led by the clergy.
Okay. Now, what change in the regime or in the policies of regime do you expect after this present crisis?
It depends. It depends how the next elections are conducted, how the new candidates come. Because even if, while there is no political party, there are no political parties in Iran, there are two streams of politics in Iran. One is conservative, other is moderate. So they follow that line, and they, incidentally and interestingly, they alternate.
Yes.
Conservatives are alternated by the moderates, and then vice versa. So this has been the case. Like President Pezeshkian is identified as a moderate. Before him, Mr. Raisi was a hardliner. So how they want to evolve, that is going to be a big challenge. I don't have an answer for that how they are going to formulate their future structure or establish their future structure.
Let me say this, that if Iran wants, or the regime wants, greater stability, they have to address the economic issues of the people. The purchasing power of the people is lost. It has substantially diminished. Now, how can they do that? One thing is, if these sanctions are removed, in that case, they have to enter into some sort of an agreement with the Americans, with the Europeans. And what does that agreement entail? It entails that they have to agree to some extent on their enrichment policy. They have to agree, or they have to give an account of what has happened to that 400 or 500 kg of 60% enriched uranium. They have to agree to a greater role of international nuclear agencies into Iran.
Correct.
They have to be more transparent. Can Iran do that, Asif?
No, the question is, Imran, here it would be the biggest challenge for the ruling clergy in Iran, that how they negotiate, one. Secondly, how they attract the common man towards their point of view. While we could see that in June war with Israel and United States, Iranian clergy succeeded in rallying the people around them when their nuclear facilities were attacked. And don't forget that Iran's nuclear program enjoys national consensus, irrespective that whether they support the regime or not. Yes, there are people like pro-Shah that they would, as Crown Prince himself has said, that we will abandon our nuclear program, we'll re-establish our relationship with Israel. Those are on record.
Yes.
It is possible. But, and then the economic crunch which they are witnessing, that is an external factor, because economic crunch is due to external sanctions, started by the Americans but followed by the entire Europe. But it is not all. The reason is that China and Russia, they have doing business with Iran.
Yeah.
China is still almost 90% their business partner. Almost 90% Iranian exports are to China. So that has sustained Iran, but that's not enough. I remember that in 2015, once this JCPOA nuclear deal was signed, these Europeans were making a beeline in Tehran.
Mm-hmm.
The prices of property had shot up. You could not find any places on rent. The reason was that there was euphoria that Iran is opened up, and there are tremendous investment opportunities, because Europe was interested in investing in the energy sector. But once Trump came, everything went topsy-turvy. So these are you can say, vulnerabilities which are very much there in Iran. So Iran will have to navigate with all these challenges to finally reach out to a level where they can address people's grievances, especially their economic woes.
That's most important, Asif. But then you have just raised a very important point, that is China. What I see is that China is an important relation with Iran. They have an agreement, which is, I think, 10-year agreement or 25-year agreement.
No, I mean, in the period of 25 years, they are going to spend almost $25 billion.
What do we see? Iran having issues with US, with Israel, except for the rhetoric, China is quiet. Except for the rhetoric, Russia is quiet. So how can, or do you think Iran can depend on these two countries in time of need?
I think, Imran, about China, you can always depend. At least this is Pakistan's experience.
Well, this is Pakistan, but what you see, what I see is that Iran, China is important, but for China, Iran is not that important.
No, the question is not. It's Chinese, they are mature people. They would not enter into a relationship where later on they have to retract.
Mm-hmm.
At least this is the history.
Okay.
Chinese history, that they have never retracted if they have shaken hands with you.
But are they prepared to enter into war with the US in support of Iran?
War would be fought by the Iranians. It is the wherewithal.
What sort of a support can China
I'll give you example of, we use the Chinese equipment.
No, forget about India. Us. No. We are talking about US, Iran, China. What sort of, you think, support China can give to Iran?
Iranians are also committed people. At least the ruling elite and their people, IRGC and others, they are committed people. They are going to fight. Not a common man is going to fight the United States. And if they get the necessary wherewithal from the Chinese, which they are getting.
They're not.
They are.
They're not.
No, they are. From Russia, no. Because Russia is involved itself with the...
What are they getting from China?
Aircraft.
Which aircraft?
The JF-17 and other aircraft.
As if they may be negotiating, but at the moment they are not getting any. There were reports.
I agree. They have been in the advanced stages. This has been, even in the Chinese publications, they have been talking about the negotiations.
You're right. There are negotiations.
They don't talk about that unless they have reached.
You see, as if more than aircrafts, what Iran needs at the moment, we are, you, yourself, myself, we are not specialists in warfare, but it's elementary that what Iran needs at the moment is defense system. It has no defense system. Its defense system was completely destroyed by the Russians.
But Iran's offensive system is equally lethal.
It is.
They did penetrate Israel's Iron Dome.
They did.
If they could penetrate Israel's Iron Dome, so they can also enter into the American bases, despite all American sophistication. And
I agree with you. You're right.
And then secondly, Americans are talking about sending their armor in the Persian Gulf. It would be a sitting duck, because to protect that platform, you require tremendous amount of defense system. So I think Americans would be vulnerable on that also. And then don't forget that if that war starts, in that case, then it could be anybody's game, because Strait of Hormuz would be choked. Nothing would move east or west.
Exactly.
And that would mean that it would bring about a crunch all over the world. Don't forget.
Yes.
So I think Americans also know that. Iranians also know that. But for Iranians, it's a survival game. It may not be for the Americans. It may be an adventure for the Americans, but not for the Iranians. And Iranians, for their survival, the regime for their survival, I think they can go to any extent.
You're right, Asif. In fact, you're right. What the regime can go to any extent, and I think the Americans realize that they will probably not be able to absorb the reaction of the Iranians. But let's come to this diplomacy. Now, we have two states or two sides with deeply entrenched views and diplomacy. They have their entrenched points of view. Iran says we will not compromise. It has to be on mutual respect, which I think it makes sense that when nations interact, it should be on the basis of mutual respect. Mr. Trump, what he is doing is he is being arrogant, and he is humiliating a country which has more than 2,000 years of history.
Yes.
How can US does not have that that history to back it?
No.
It has its military might. It has its military strength, but it does not have that history. So we have two countries which have deeply entrenched point of views. Where is diplomacy? I don't see diplomacy working. Initially, it did work. Qatar played a role, Bahrain played a role, Oman played a role, Saudi Arabia MBS played a role, but Americans are still there.
You have a very strong observation, and I agree with that. But at the same time, Imran, that's how diplomacy faces challenges and then come up with solutions. And you don't forget that I think apart from Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Pakistan are also quite active in convincing the Americans that military option is not a solution. They have to resort to diplomacy. For us, again, it is a very crucial issue because we are the next door neighbor of Iran.
Yeah.
We cannot afford instability along our borders. And Iran is a friend, it's a brotherly country. And don't forget that Iran is not alone in this, as far as Pakistan's demand is concerned. Even Saudi Arabia and UAE, and they have also clearly said that they will not allow their territory or air space to be used against Iran. Because they are also aware that if that is allowed, then it means their territories will become enemy territories. So in this situation, I think there is a need that apart from Pakistan, Turkey, Saudi Arabia and all Gulf states should come together and make a joint bidding for the peace to convince the Americans that they should give diplomacy a chance. One. Second aspect is Iran's nuclear program. There, I think Iran, if Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei's fatwa is correct, and it is still there, which he issued in 2003, that making nuclear weapons is haram, then I think Iran should come out clean, that they don't want to do that. That would actually blunt the American criticism of Iran's nuclear program. Don't make it a prestige point. Reason is, if you don't want to have nuclear weapons, so come out clean, because in any case, JCPOA has accepted Iran's right to have access to nuclear weapons.
JCPOA is gone.
For peaceful purpose. No, even if it's gone. The question is, the Americans, it was Trump who rejected it, but the issue is that the validity of the agreement no one has questioned the validity of the...
Asif, you see, US said that Iran should come forward and the fatwa is there, yes. But I think Iran, after that initial encounter with Israel and with encounter with the US, has realized that for its own survival, nuclear program is inevitable. So Iran, as I see, it is very difficult for Iran to compromise on as far as its nuclear program is concerned. What if Israel does that again? Israel says that more than, you see, mate, at the moment, more than nuclear program, it is Iran's missile program that is of concern to Israel, that is of concern to the US. And they are now telling the Iranians that you have to curtail your missile program.
You are right. More than nuclear weapons, it's Iran's missiles program. Delivery system. They can only tip it with lethality, which Iran has said they are not doing. And if Iran agrees to that, it resolves the problem. It resolves the problem to a greater extent. But when you talk about question, quote unquote, regime change, then that is the weak point. And that is actually can become for Iran, it hurts their ego.
It is definitely. You see, regime change is not...
So Americans have to compromise on that. Why? Because the alternate is not available. So it would mean only death and destruction, as it happened in Iraq.
Exactly. Or in Libya.
Or in Syria or elsewhere.
As if regime change, regime change is not possible without boots on ground. And if Americans try to do that thing, they will suffer huge casualties.
But why boots on ground?
Why boots on ground? Exactly.
Why boots on ground? So this, and then we should acknowledge that Iran has had a big setback in its, that it had to lose its proxies in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Hamas.
But
they are almost decimated.
Staying with what you said about regime change, first of all, as you rightly said, that regime change, what will it happen? How will it happen? One thing. Second thing is, let's suppose they succeed in eliminating the regime leaders, top leaders. What will happen then?
Nothing.
Who is the alternative? It will create greater chaos, it will create greater unrest, which, as it happened in Iraq, which as it happened in Libya, which has happened elsewhere, it would create instability in the region. And my mind thinks that, well, that is exactly what Israel wants, to create greater instability, because if there is greater instability, that would add to the strength of Israel.
But Imran, don't forget, and Israel should not forget, that instability doesn't mean stability for Israel.
It does not mean at all. You have hit the nail on the head.
So it is that if there is stability in the region or around Israel, then there are chances that diplomacy can work. But in the case of instability, diplomacy gets the hit and it can't work. So it's better that whether it's war, you have to use diplomacy, whether it is in chaos, you have to use diplomacy. And if there is stability, that is far better option for the countries who have adversarial relationship to enter into diplomacy and talk. And then talk about the purpose should be that how not to go to war, how to control situation getting out of control. That is very important. And in that regard, I think Iran will also have to weigh its options. And then from domestic point of view, I think Iran will also have to rethink, go back to the drawing board, that how they can stabilize.
Okay, Asif, before we conclude this program, recently, a couple of days back, European Union has designated IRGC as a terrorist organization, a very extremist step.
Yeah.
And French initially had opposed this thing. They thought that by declaring IRGC as an extremist organization, as a terrorist organization, they would remove the possibility of diplomatic solution to the Iranian situation. But now they have also joined in, and European Union has declared IRGC as a terrorist organization. What do you say?
I think that's their duplicity. European Unions, because this is not the first time. Earlier, if you recall, after signing off the JCPOA, when Americans, they withdrew, when Trump came and he withdrew from the JCPOA, the European Union represented 3 European countries who were signatory to JCPOA: UK, France, and Germany. They had weak knees. They could not defend the JCPOA, and they could not convince the Americans not to withdraw from the agreement, which actually damaged the disarmament machinery tremendously. Reason is that the disarmament machinery was already facing a paralysis since mid-90s. And this JCPOA, in fact, rekindled the hope that now negotiations would be there towards disarmament, nuclear disarmament. And Iran agreement was very much taken as a positive omen. But Trump torpedoed that. And the result was that there were more chaos, more tensions. And now, whatever you see, of course, Iran also had the setback from Hamas's attacks in 2022 and onwards. You have seen the destruction, death and destruction which has taken place and which has brought us to this pass. But what are we witnessing today? It is chaos, uncertainty, and more, the war clouds are very much hovering. So this is what we are witnessing. So European Union declaring IRGC as a terrorist organization what good it is going to make.
It's not. They have not made any effort to ameliorate the situation. Ladies and gentlemen, you watched this discussion between Asif and myself. As he also said, and I also believe, that war clouds are still hovering in the region. American Armada is still there, which Mr. Trump proudly claims. Beautiful armada, beautifully sailing towards the rich. Well, Mr. Trump, war is not a condition or situation where you should be proud of it. It leads to nothing but more killing. Situation in the region is still not certain. We try to cover various aspects of it. We hope the good sense prevails. European Union has declared IRGC as a terrorist organization. As Asif and myself, we agree that that was an extremist step. It would not help in any way reducing or ameliorating the situation within the region. We hope that good sense prevail and that Americans and the Iranians and the regional countries, of course, they are trying to convince the Americans that this is not, war is not a solution. Asif, any final take on that?
No, you have done it. You have summed it up very well.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching the Ambassador's Lounge. Please subscribe to our channel, and we will always be there to discuss any situation, international situation. Thank you very much.